Okay, is this on? Or yeah. Yeah. My name is Mikael Bossel. I work as a senior solution designer, which means I design solutions to manage information for clients, but also processes. And processes and workflows sort of stick together. I work directly to the customers, end customers, and I've been working with a lot of customers during these years, and not so much with workflows in print, more before sort of the document is created. So I sort of leave it when it's a PDF. That's the end of the world for me, sort of. I've been using a lot of systems and a lot of technology during this year, and that's also one of the problems. Sometimes there are maybe too much different systems and too much different technologies to choose from, at least from the client perspective. And when it comes to design a good solution for the customers, you need to combine system or tools also with knowledge and also with a good process. And this is a problematic sort of mix. Most customers buying a system, they have a sort of over-belief in that system. It will solve all my problems, even though I don't really know what problems they have and so on. And they doesn't always understand the system. What's the purpose of the system, how to use it in the right way. And then they try to implement it on their existing manual processes, which might not be the best to systemize. Sometimes you need to redesign your processes to get it to work in a system. So this is a combination, and as we say, a good solution could not be only one of these parts, at least not only the system parts. Sometimes we could manage with only adding knowledge and some changed processes, but it's just implement the system is not really a good idea. I often work with marketing or information departments. Within a company, these are the companies sort of produce all the information that sometimes go to print, mostly goes to web and so on. And this is an area where, they're not so efficient. And there's a lot of analysis and publications and stuff around this. One of them is from Kotler and Shaw. It's like a manifest where they say that most organizations, they have an overly complex and under-controlled process when it's come to marketing. And the problem is when the company grows and the information demand grows, also this situation gets worse. So what they said, rethink the process, rethink the market process, rethink the information managed process. You have to do that. And I will come back to this. To defend them a little bit, when it comes to marketing, really the big thing they do, or where they spend most time, is not to be creative. It's actually to manage information. They have very much information to manage and administrate. They have information from many sources and many people, different departments within the company, also subcontractors and clients. Information goes across many people. And they should publish it in different languages and in different channels, mobile, web, it just explodes, which means also you have to have different variants and different formats of the information. So, and what the problem is that it's really rare that they have any defined processes of how to work with information. I come to a lot of companies, and this is big companies, and I ask for, can I see the process, how you work with information and so on? They don't have it documented. They don't have a good overview of what they do, and that's the first problem. The second problem for managing marketing information, like text, product information, images and stuff like that, is that they have not any good system support. I mean, if you come to a company and, for example, you have web orders and you have production and delivery and everything like that, you have an ERP system for that. You have order system, you have delivery system, you have system support and quite well-defined processes of how to manage your product in a company, but not for information. So this is some numbers of marketings. Less than half have their workflows processes documented. And the other problem is that they have a lot of tools to work with. And these tools are not connected together. I mean, they use web CMS system for publishing on web. They use some e-commerce tool for selling the products. And they have a DAM system, and they have a PIM system, and something else. And then they have InDesign, working with all the printed document. And that's not even a system. It's documents. And most of them communicate via email, sending files back and forth. Yeah, maybe some use the Dropbox solution we saw earlier, but that's not really, the system either for managed information. And the last one, that's mine. I made it. They use Excel as a planning tool. So yeah, I've seen a lot of planning schedules made in Excel. And yeah, that's the way to do it. The problem is that Excel, even though you manage to do a really nice Gantt schedule there, you have to manually update it. It's not really aware of what's happening in the organization. So you need meetings. Meet people, say, have you done that? Yeah, okay, let me change that color of that spot in the Excel sheet. Have you done that? And so on. So it's a lot of administration. And this is one example I will show you some. They manage quite much information. And they publish information in a lot of publication, product guides, product news, bulletins, and fact sheets and training materials. And they do it in at least 13 languages. They have more languages, like 45 or something, but all the main publications is in 13 main languages, major. At the company, I have 5 individual departments working with different type of publications and so on. So they are a silo organization, as you call it. Quite many big companies have that, different silos managing different type of information. And they also have like 14 external partners, bureaus working with documents. So they have a situation what they call the global content Wild West. And that's sort of a Göteborg joke as well. So, but it's true. They have some issues with managing information. But we made a pilot for them, and we find just by working with one of these documents, we could actually reduce their effort quite much, mainly because of automation. But also implementing something we call micro workflows. And I will come back to that. Also, they will increase the quality, which is also a big problem. And that's because they will use single source of information. When working with 5 departments and 14 external partners with all these publications, they don't have one single source of information. So they have a lot of possible errors. And we have implemented actually information ERP system for them. I'll come back to that. And traditional workflows at the marketing department. I said they are really not documented. So one of the jobs we do is actually help them to document their workflow processes. What are they doing? And that's just visualize all the actions in sequence. What happens? You know how to do workflow by now. You've seen a lot of them today. And when you do that, you see that they have actually a lot of things they do within the company or the marketing department. And one thing that they sort of forget, they don't tell you about that. It's not like a process on the mind, but that's managing or administration. Since they're working quite manually or have different system without integration, they spend really much time on planning the project, the estimates, the checklists. And I had one company with 5 people, and they had all 5 different Excel sheets as there was the checklist. My next week, what should I do? And everyone managed their own checklists. So there's a lot of administration to manage everything manually. And when you start to list these processes for them and you check it, it's quite simple. You could just list up what are the activities in your workflow, how much time does this take, and for one process it could be like 21 activities. Often they have quite many things they do before they sort of start writing a text until it's published. It could take like 45 minutes or 44 minutes. And they repeat it 500 times because they're doing 500 fact sheets or they're doing 500 products that should go on the web. And if you summarize that, you see that start piling up quite many hours. And actually this is the time the marketing department spend. They spend a lot of hours internally, but also externally. And this is sort of the base for the prioritization. Where you spend the most time is probably the area where you start to do improvements. So these companies try to get a shorter time to market or time to value, of course. And this is actually the first thing they try to do. Without changing anything, squeeze the timeline. They try to press the print guys and they try to press the bureau, doing the marketing and everything. Just do the same, but faster. And that doesn't really help anything. Then automation or automation. You've seen a lot of automation stuff today, but there actually is also within marketing. We saw from Chile Publishing. You could do stuff. That's also one good thing to do. Avoid doing the same thing twice is also quite a good thing. Seems quite basic, but it isn't. If you take a look at the workflows in the market department, they do things twice or 3 times or 5 times or even more. Especially when they do a review. They create a document, they send it for review, they get input back, the changes, send it out again. Without telling you what have I changed since the last time, what parts should you read and what parts should you not read. So you have to read everything twice, maybe 3 times, 4 times. If you do like an annual report or something, you could have 7 rounds of review. That's not uncommon. So you have to avoid that repetition. Of course, you can do also stuff simpler. You can simplify, even though you cannot automate an action like proofreading. You can make it simpler for the person who will read it. Use change marks, for example. That's a very simple thing. But there's very few of my clients that have change marks in the document. They just send the documents once again. And of course, shorter workflows. How to make workflows shorter? Well, when you work with traditional, especially print, the unit you manage is a document, or even for this company, as in my example, they used batches of document. They didn't just send one document, they sent all the documents at the same time. So when they do translation, they wait for translation, they send all the document for translation. Get it back, they do the review of all the documents and so on. And that's quite easy to plan, but it's really time consuming when it comes to a workflow. So traditionally, you move one document in the same workflow. This is a fact sheet, which was the use case for Volvo. It could be like at least 4 pages or up to 16 pages. They send the document for review. They have 2 different kind of reviews. They send the document for translation, and the document is the unit. But they have different type of changes. Sometimes it could be a very small technical thing, or it could be a sales argument, or it could be an image. But everything travels in the same workflow because it's a document. So even a small change like this, the complete document have to walk all the workflow around. So what to do? This is the example workflow they had for one of the documents. They did the productions, and then they did a technical review, and then they did a commercial review, and then translation, and after that publishing. Quite simple. But they had a whole batch of documents, going from step to step, and they had like four of these periods during the year where they produce documents and release the documents, and so it's an ongoing process for them. But the problem is that things change quite much faster than 4 times a year, and especially when you work with products they are quite technical. They have software, and software updates quite frequent, so they need to squeeze down this workflow and timelines. And of course, the traditional way they calculate how to do this plan is to, mostly guessing actually. That's the most common way to calculate. After a while, when you've done this a number of years, of course you could make the schedule better, but in some way they have a number of units they can produce per day, depending on different states, and that makes how long one of these steps should be. Okay, micro is small. So what we do is we break up the batch they have of documents into single documents, but also we break the document into pages or sections. And what we also did was break out the content from the document. So content separate from the document. And that's also something called content first. A couple of other clients, even actually traditional publisher like Egmont Publishing, they do magazines, Bamse and other, they have a couple of 100 magazines. They also start working with content first. Traditionally, they work with document first. InDesign document as the newspaper, but now they work with articles or stories within that content. And that also is because they want publish on the web at the same time as publish printed. And on this Volvo case, we also break the content into information units, because you have some sales text in the beginning, which could be separated from facts, and you have some benefits, and then different parts of it, types of information. So their traditional workflow was like that. They had a production, then they did it tech and commercial and translation and publishing. So just by taking that and divide into 2 batches, you could actually move one batch and then finish workflow of the 5 documents and move these 5 documents to start here. And as you break it down to even smaller chunks, you can press it together even more. So by just having two chunks of documents instead, you sort of have, in this case, like 35% shorter project time. But also, the thing is that some of this fact sheet, they don't need a technical review. Because if it's only the sales argument in this document that have changed, you don't have to send it to a technician, because you can only send it for commercial review. So this workflow will not then include a technical review, of course. And maybe some other documents don't need to be translated, because you just change some image or something that's not need translation. So then it's even shorter. So this together will, for Volvo at least, shrink the schedule for 50%, only by having a smarter workflow, working with smaller units of information. And there are some other benefits, of course, because activities could start without waiting for others. So you can compact the timeline. The smaller units make it, you can process it in parallel instead of a long sequence. Of course, you can differentiate the workflows. The different documents can go into different steps depending on what type of content change it is. And of course, there are some units of change that haven't been affected. So they don't have to travel the workflow. So you don't have to send pages or pieces of information that's not changed into the workflow at all. And another effect is that since you do that, you also spread the workload. And that's a problem for them today, because when everything gets back from translation, they are really busy doing review, because you have a couple of thousand of pages in 13 languages, and everything should be reviewed during 2 weeks. So of course you have a peak. But since you spread out the workflow, they have a little review every day to do. And they're not really a big problem if someone gets sick and so on, because it doesn't pile up so much. So these are... There are some sort of backslash. It will change the way you work. And you shouldn't sort of forget that in a big organization, especially a traditional company, industrial company, all changes is, it's a problem. It will take quite a long time to implement these changes, because the people are slow in change. And also, when breaking up this, you cannot really use Excel as a project planning tool. You shouldn't use it at all to begin with, but if you do, you need some ERP system or information management system. Depending on what type of information you have, you need to have status on smaller assets and follow it up. And when something is checked for translation, you shouldn't have a person calling someone and check this up. It should be a status on the object and a button saying this is done, 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 and so on. And in this case, we implemented a marketing hub or an ERP system for information called SendShare. and this helps us with all of this. We could break down information. We can mix digital assets like images with database assets like a product. We can have status on them. We could assign them to different persons or different working groups. It also have an InDesign server and a planning tool, so we could place things on the pages and produce the pages and send it for translation. It has integration with the translation agency and everything. So this is a really marketing hub for them. And it also have a calendar, a schedule, and a project tool built in. And these phases could also be connected to the information. So when things have been checked up for technical review, this will go from 0 to 100%. So you can follow the workflow and see it. That helps, of course. Yeah. So this is my sort of last words. If you're going to implement a solution, you need a combination of knowledge, process, and system. You cannot do it with only the system. And when you implement a system, probably you also have to rethink your processes, because a system could be good in a specific way, and that's not maybe the way you worked before. So if you haven't defined them, rethink them, and don't forget to evolve the process. All the processes will be changed. The system change, your demand change, so you have to constantly work on your process and update them, make them more accurate and efficient. And if you break the workflows into micro workflows, you will save time and you will be more efficient. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you. So you work at a company called iStone.
Yeah.
So what is iStone?
iStone, first of all, it's acquired by Columbus.
Yeah.
So that's why my email address now is Columbus Global.
Yeah.
But we are a consultancy company selling e-commerce, ERP system, and information management system. Yeah.
Yeah, so you're
Team.
an IT company?
IT consultant.
IT consultant?
Yeah.
Yeah. And your background, so your background from Elanders?
Yeah, I worked on Elanders
Yeah.
printer, and I worked on and was a co-owner of Control Publishing.
Control publishing.
And
And some of the things that some of the customers you work with are some really heavy customers. I've always known them, but some really, really big catalog productions we involved with.
yeah, we have a company here. I can not mention the name.
You don't have to mention that.
It's a Swedish furniture
Yes,
company.
Swedish furniture company.
Yeah, we also have a Swedish fashion company.
And Swedish fashion company.
Yeah,
Another
and Oriflame is a big. I can mention them.
So I can assure you that he knows exactly what he's talking about in terms of workflow. So he knows so talking truthfully, because there are a lot of things that is produced in what he's producing in the process. He ends up with us in the production. And I can assure you, if he knew what was going on here, we would be in good position. Okay, thank you very much again. We will
Thanks.
switch.